Today we're going to have an affluent conversation, and this conversation is going to be about public speaking and some of the stress that we might have surrounding public speaking. So for this conversation, I want you to get comfortable. And because I want you to get comfortable, I am also very comfortable, and I am sitting outside. So you may hear in the background some birds and some kind of nature stuff going on. That's not a soundscape. That is actually my front yard. That may or may not include a periodic person cutting the grass. Anyway, we're going to have this conversation because public speaking is a way in which we communicate not only our thoughts, but also how we feel about ourselves. So my background spans broadcast, print journalism, and also some acting. So when I worked in broadcast journalism, I did radio, I did television, I was a news anchor, and I remember that often people would say to me, "Why are you not afraid? How is it that you're afraid I would never do that job?" And I realized that I was not afraid because I didn't like the job. That's why I do what I do now, which is psychotherapy and finance coaching and so forth, because I didn't like sitting in front of a camera and sitting in front of a teleprompter and doing that kind of work. It just wasn't something that was passionate to me. Therefore, I did not put a lot of value in it. And so even now, even in this conversation that we've had, within, I don't know, not even 2 minutes, I've made a couple of blunders. And while I love what I do, and while I am passionate about it, I also feel like I'm giving you the real me. And that comes with flaws. We all come with flaws. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to be a guru. So we're going to do a little exercise today that is going to incorporate a little of hypnotherapy and a little affirmation and a lot of basically love. And why we need to have this conversation and this experience is because what is underneath of a fear of public speaking often has nothing to do with the topical public speaking. It has more to do with how we feel about ourselves. So now, as I'm having this conversation with you, I'm also taking a little bit of a walk. So just understand that. Anyway, so, okay, let's get a visual here. And I'm using my hands because I have some Italian in my system, and this is what happens. So we have this pyramid or triangle or mountain, whatever you want to call it. And the very tip of the mountain, you know what, let's make it an iceberg. So the very tip of the iceberg is what you see, okay? And so the tip of the iceberg is the public speaking experience. And when I say the public speaking experience, say that 3 times fast, it actually is the moment that you're having that experience. So for instance, for some people, it is because they're a broadcast journalist and that's what they want to do and they're getting tripped up in front of the camera. For some other people, for most people, it is something in a presentation or a meeting. Usually it is someone pitching something. So I used to work for an engineering company as a consultant to help their engineers pitch so that they would win the projects and win the basically the jobs that they were going after. And engineers tend to be a little awkward and geeky, and they tend to also not always dress the best. This was back in the, I would say, early 90s. They weren't dressing the best. It wasn't cool to be a geek. It is now, thankfully. And they had a lot of hang-ups with looking at people in the eye and speaking effectively. They were very intelligent. They knew what they were doing, but they didn't know how to sell. They didn't know how to pitch. So that's where I was brought in to help them dress for success, speak for success, and feel confident when they were doing this. So let's back up a little bit more. These were individuals who loved what they did and they really wanted to succeed, and they didn't know how to get from their process of what they knew well to pitching to an entirely different set of people. So they weren't engineers pitching to other engineers. They were engineers pitching to management. So there was this weird hierarchy as well, because they knew they were pitching to someone who, in the corporate scale, was at a higher echelon than them, or so they thought. So when you have someone who is pitching, whether it is, an engineer, or it is someone in the creative field pitching to a television executive, anyone really. If you're pitching anything to anyone, it could be anything at all. You are feeling passionate. You are feeling like you want them to see things your way. And deep underneath of this, what you really want is for them to say, you know what? You've got what it takes. I trust you. I believe in you. I believe in what you're saying. You are what I was looking for, and I didn't know I needed. Or you are exactly what you're bringing me is so valuable, and you want them to be happy about it. So when you're on a team, what happens is you also want your team to feel that you are valuable. And so when you are pitching, that's a lot riding on you. Now let's back up. Most of us did not have a perfect childhood. Doesn't mean we had a bad childhood. But you know what? There were times in everybody's background where your parent was exhausted or your caregiver was exhausted and they kind of shut you down. Maybe you were just an excited little kid wanting to do something and they were just like, you know what? Not right now. Not in the mood. Or maybe they were even a little bit rude or very rude. Okay, so let's just pretend that for the benefit of the doubt, you had no abuse, no negativity, and you just had a tired parent. But again, let's be realistic. There's a lot of you who actually had trauma, and maybe you don't call it trauma. Maybe you say things like, well, my dad loved me, but he was hard on me. Or my grandfather was amazing, but he didn't really take what I did seriously. I mean, this goes on. And I know I'm using a lot of examples here that are a little bit more biased towards men right now, but women, this is the same for you too. So here's a reality of what you need to do. And a lot of you who are in this position of having a problem with public speaking often will take Toastmasters courses, which I absolutely think is a great idea, but they are not always going to get to the root of the issue. They're going to help you on that tip of the iceberg level. Like you're going to learn how to think on your feet a little bit more. And that's good to do. Now, some of my other training was through QVC as a host. Actually, not as a host, I take that back. As a spokesperson, so a guest host. So technically, yeah, a host. But a lot of what you had to do for that training was you had to pick out the important aspects of something. So say I was selling a yellow bistro table set for outside, which is what I'm looking at right now as I'm walking around, my bistro set, which is actually at QVC right now. I actually bought it from them. So the reality is that I would not tell you every single thing about this set. I would pick 3 things out that I think are important to you, not important to me, important to you. So if I feel that the price is something that might be important to you, and the color might be important to you, and the way it looks to my neighbors might be important to you, that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, for me personally, I'm all about the comfort of it. I like sitting down. It's a smaller set. I'm a short person, and it fits me. I like it. But the average person is not going to be, 5'2" and care about that. So what I will do is I will hypothesize what's important to you. Now, hear me out, because this is about the fear of public speaking. I'm going to help you understand how to get to the bottom of it. And I've thrown a lot of different things at you because all of these different components are really about what's happening underneath of that tip of the iceberg. Okay, so for right now, let's just focus on some training that I had to think on your feet, to pitch something, to sell something. So Number one, I think that you care maybe that you're going to buy something for outside that your neighbors will say, that looks nice. It's going to bring the curb appeal of your home up. When people are taking a walk in your neighborhood, whether you have it in your front yard or your backyard, however they can see it, if someone, maybe you invite someone over, they're going to look at that and say, oh, that's different. I like that. They're going to immediately think you've made a really good choice and it's different and it sets you apart from others. And it adds, regardless, maybe an air of whimsy or a little style. It adds a jolt of summer. It's like sunshine in your front yard. So it's a metal yellow bistro set. It's a beautiful bright yellow. And when people walk by, I feel that they're going to look at that and they're going to say, you did a great job with that. It's also very sturdy. So it was a great price and it's very sturdy. So as I'm telling you about this, I'm not going to go into a million of the other things that I could say about it. I'm going to tell you different stories about how it's sturdy. I can tell you about how my grandson sat on it and he had his breakfast, and which is true story. He sat on this at the bistro set, had his breakfast, and he was banging away as a little boy does, and the set stayed, it didn't fall over, it didn't dent or anything else. It was great. And my grandson loved it. So, here we go. I'm telling you a little story. I'm giving you little anecdotes, but it's really about how you can envision maybe someone you know or love, maybe it's even you, sitting outside, maybe with your laptop, and you're not going to mess it up, and yada yada. Bottom line is, this is how you pitch. I don't care if you're pitching something to an executive in television. I don't care if you're pitching something to a group of engineers, a group of corporate executives. I don't care if it's to a group of women for skincare, okay? You personalize it, bringing up your experience, but what's in it for them. Now, I know that most of you know that already. It's all over Google. It's all over everywhere. It's in every sales book. It's in almost every marketing book. What's in it for the client? What's in it for them? What's in it for them? But do you really know how to get what's in it for them? Everyone thinks they know, but what's in it for them depends on who they are, and what they're looking at. So a lot of times you put too much weight into, say it's for, you're pitching something for television and you have a show that you want to pitch and you're feeling really nervous because you have a lot riding on this. You really don't have a lot riding on it. You think you have a lot riding on it, but experiences and opportunities come in and out of our lives all of the time. And often what happens is something that doesn't follow through and work out for you really is just another door opens that might be better. And that's truly what happens, because we learn from our quote unquote failures. We learn from our experiences that don't quite work out. Therefore, every time we have a failure or something that doesn't work out, we become stronger if we allow that to happen. We may become more insecure until we learn how to work it. But every experience we have really does give us a little bit more of a callus, okay? A little bit more of a scar, and that actually strengthens. So when you have a scar on skin, that scar is there to strengthen that injury. So even though you might feel beaten down and scarred up and everything else, it's actually a really big positive. So an exercise for you right now is going to be to think about the last time you had an experience. When you had that experience where you felt that you were going backwards in time and you couldn't speak, was it really about the pitch, or was it really about how you feel about yourself? Was it really about your stress levels, or was it about the person across the table or across the Zoom or whatever? Often it's really about us. We are the ones stopping our own success. I encourage anyone listening to this, especially the one person that I'm actually creating this entire thing for, who happens to be a male, I encourage him and anyone else listening to dive deep into, do you think you deserve success? If you have other people in your life that you were you find amazing, and you had other people maybe who shot you down or were hard on you, you learned early on that you either didn't have someone that believed in you, or you felt like you could never reach someone else's level of success. That's your belief system. But you have everything. Here's the beauty of it. Whether or not that person is genetic to you or not, let's just take if they're genetic, number one. If they're genetic, you have all of the DNA that made them successful. You have it. You already have it within you, but you're like the 2.0, okay? You are the more evolved human being. You really are. If you are younger than the person who was older than you, who was very successful, you're the 2.0. You're the new iPhone. You're the better version. You're more evolved. You actually are more evolved. So you actually have more of whatever gift that they had. You have more of it. Now, the person that might have been negative, do you have more of that negativity? No, because you're more evolved. You know what not to do. And you can actually see them for what they are right now, which is whenever someone is negative and shoots someone else down, that is their insecurity coming out. That's not about you. It is projected at you, and you might have the young you thought it, but that's not you. That's a projection. And it's like a mirage. And you know what? Up until now, you might have believed it. And even now you might believe it, but we're going to work on you not believing it. So now let's take it as maybe the person wasn't genetic. Maybe they adopted you. Maybe it was a friend of the family. Maybe it was a teacher. So no genetic DNA happening. But guess what? There's an energy behind every relationship you have. And the energy of the relationship is the quality that you have circulating around you. So if you have a really negative relationship, let's say with your 6th grade teacher from years ago, and that energy was circulating around you, and you felt dread going into that classroom, and that energy stayed circulating around you in some way, whenever you have a trigger that brings something up, you're going to have that energy boost back up again. You're going to remember that energy circulating around you. So, quick little story. When I was in 6th grade, there was a math teacher. It wasn't even my math teacher, but I would be in the hallway talking to my friends, and I was in a high-level math class, and I didn't even know it at the time, but I was in a high-level math class, and I was really happy, but I didn't fit the textbook of what the high-level math kid looked like, okay? Now, I wasn't cool. Let me just preface with that. So I know you're probably thinking like, okay, the high-level math kids might have had a nerdy look, but Michelle was really cool. But you know what? Anyone who knows me knows that that is not the case. So no, I wasn't cool, but I was very creative. So I was this kind of like hippie, kind of punk rocky, I don't know, finding myself kind of little kid, farm kid, basically. And this one teacher, who was not my teacher, but she used to be in the hallway with my teacher, she just seemed to have a thing against me. And she would just say these like little rude, passive-aggressive comments. And I remember just thinking, this is a woman in math, in science, who doesn't like me. So therefore, for years, I would stay away from women who were in math and science in school, because I felt like these teachers were probably not going to like me, because if this one didn't like me, what would make me think these others would like me? Now that sounds silly, right? But that's from a 6th grade, my frontal lobe's not developed yet kind of mentality. But guess what? That energy stayed with me for a very long time. And then I would, even when I decided like, okay, the hell with it, I'm still going to do this, I still had anxiety around it. So the circulating energy around someone else's negativity can still stay with you. It's called a memory, and everything that we have, memory, brain activity, all has an energy. So you take that energy and you decide what you're going to do with it. Are you going to allow that energy from God knows who, this like almost nameless person, or this other person in your life, to dictate your positive potential? So energy is potential, right? So if we take it from a science space, if energy is potential, or there's a potential in energy, we can alter what energy looks like. Energy can change, it doesn't die. So negative energy that's with us doesn't die. but we can change it. We don't have to sit with it. We can change it. So what I want you to do is I want you to work on writing some of that energy down. Like write down what kind of energy was thrown at me and how can I change it? So how I changed it, I started mentoring younger kids. I started mentoring others because I wanted to kind of erase her negativity. So I thought, well, if I'm really positive with someone else, I'm going to take that energy and what she would have said, I'm going to say something different. So I started mentoring and teaching other children when I was in about, I was in maybe 10th or 11th grade, and I started working with some younger kids, just really informally. It started out actually as kids that I babysat. And then I started doing a little bit more and just like teaching kids, just different science projects and stuff like that, how science could be fun. And that actually, by the time I graduated high school, I was already over that woman. And I know this sounds like a very elementary, small thing, but you know what? Most of us are carrying around scars from our inner child. Or I should say, our inner child is carrying around scars and energy. Scars are good if we know how to maneuver them. Scars are good if we understand that they're there to make us stronger. But if we don't understand a scar, we're going to feel shame around it. We're going to try to hide it. So I want you to think back to my little story about this yellow bistro set. And so if I really wanted you to have this yellow bistro set, I would tell you why it's important to me. And any kind of, if I would start to feel like, oh God, they clicked on this audio because they want to hear about public speaking and I'm babbling about a bistro set, and what if they close it and I'm not going to get enough, shares of this video or downloads, blah, blah, blah. I can work myself up into a freaking, I don't know what. But if I really don't care, if I really just care about reaching one person and that one person ends up with something positive and everyone else can do whatever, that's fine. So I'm not here to please everyone. I'm here to make sure that at least one person benefits. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying. If you have to use public speaking to pitch someone or a group of people, you can't afford that. You need to impress those people. Okay, that's fine. But you don't have to impress them. You have to teach them. You're there to teach them. They want you to succeed. Your peers don't really need you to be impressive and everything else. They just want you to be you. So I want you to take some time. We're going to breathe a little bit now. I'm going to tell you a little bit first while you're breathing. I want you to close your eyes and breathe, and I want you to visualize where I am right now. So I'm in my front yard. I've been pacing back and forth as I've been talking to you, and I'm standing still right now. And you might even hear the breeze or the guy in the back 2 houses down over to the left that's mowing. And I'm underneath of a beautiful maple tree next to some chimes. In fact, I'm going to walk closer to the chimes so you can hear it. Here we go. And so I'm looking at a blue sky with some white clouds. The clouds are moving kind of slowly. Kind of weird that we're still in a pandemic. If I just stay here and just look up at the sky, it's just everything's perfect. But life isn't perfect. But didn't this pandemic teach us a hell of a lot? So I want you to focus on breathing. And I want you just to bring yourself to a space where you're comfortable. If it's daytime, I want you to look at your sky. I want you to listen to your background. And I want you to put together, it's going to sound weird. You ready? You're going to put together 5 songs. And you know what? Anyone that's listening, especially the one person, and he knows who he is, anyone is welcome to send me this playlist. This is going to be the playlist of your life. The first 2 to 3 songs may be stressful. They may outline something stressful. Maybe the first one's really loving and the next 2 are sad or high anxiety. The 4th song has to be about your willingness to let go of perfection, your willingness to embrace your greatness. The 5th song has to do with how you feel. It's going to be like the background of you walking into a room and you're ready to pitch, or firing up the computer and you're ready to pitch. You're ready to speak. You're ready to give that speaking engagement. You're ready to go on camera. It's that moment where you are ready, and I want you to have a song that is sort of like your calling card. So that's what I want you to give to me. So the first 1 to 3 songs may or may not be stressful. At least one of them is going to be, because you know what? You're not listening to this and you didn't click on this because life is perfect and public speaking is great for you. So one of them has to have some kind of like playlist of tension that reminds you of part of your life. This can also be this could be someone, the song itself doesn't have to be depressing. It just has to be the meaning behind it for you. So for instance, if I were going to tell you about missing my mom, who was an amazing person, and she was a little hard on me, I might not have a depressing, mean song, but I might have a song that she liked to listen to. And so you would listen to it and go, well, this is a happy, cheerful song. How is this negative? And I would tell you that story and I would give you more details. So that's what I want you to do. The playlist of your life, but one is the pivot point and one is sort of the like, you're coming in the room and lights are on you and this is what happens. This is the song that plays when you walk into the room. So I want you to give me that. And now we're almost 30 minutes into this, so I want you to focus on some breathing. We're going to wrap it up a little bit, but the breathing is important because I want you to take notice of how were you breathing during all of this. Now, here's the biggest thing. You cannot listen to this just once and be done. I need you to put this on as background. I need you to fall asleep with it because I've infused hypnotherapy in this. And it sounded like just one big conversation, and it was not. Now, it was more hypnotherapy for that one specific person because I used different aspects of his specific life, so he will have the biggest benefit from it. But every single person who listens to this, there's going to be something in this that's going to trigger you in some way and has an element of healing connected to it. So I want anyone and everyone to be able to listen to this. Again, listen to it before you fall asleep, listen to it while you're making dinner, listen to it while you're on the treadmill, whatever it is. I need you to listen to this at least 3 times. But for the one person in particular that I made this for, and you know who you are, I need you to listen to this every day for 7 days. And then we're going to have another one that is going to be just purely focused on meditation. And that will be the next one that everyone will get to hear, but it's specifically for him. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Again, my name is Michele-Paiva. I'm the finance therapist. And it's all about your self-worth and your net worth.